Is it possible to fast track a midlife crisis? I'm not sure, but I'm going to share everything I did to find my way through. I think it took like maybe 2.5 years, and you can try them and see if it gets you there any faster. What I would say, in having gone through it, is if it's meant to be uncomfortable because it's a transition, but if you can find a way to be comfortable with the discomfort and sort of, for lack of a better word, enjoy this transition, I would encourage you to do that and take the time you need. But I know if it were me 2 years ago listening to this video, I would be like, yeah, screw that. I just want to find my way to the other side. So, yeah, at the time, I guess the first time I thought maybe I was having a midlife crisis, and I guess before we go on, I am old enough to be midlife. I have 2 adult children, so I know I look young, but I'll get that out of the way. I was having lunch with a friend, and it had been about a year since I got laid off from my last job. And my last job, I put too much of myself into it. I loved my project. I loved the customers, the company I was working for, and my project was gaining traction. And then I got laid off, and I just thought, I'm done with tech. I don't want to build stuff for other people. And I didn't know what to do next. And so I did what a lot of people do in my situation. I took a bunch of courses. So I know for some of you, you may go back to school. I took random courses, 100 days of no code, pencil privates to learn how to draw. I did 30 podcasts in 30 days, had an e-commerce store, and held workshops and just all kinds of stuff. And I just felt like I couldn't find my thing. And I also felt this weird tension between like wanting to do something and feeling like life has gone by so quickly. And, I just want to experience more of it, but also realizing that it's finite. My time here is finite. And I think there's that, but then I also felt not motivated sometimes. And there were a lot of things that contributed to me being in this state. One was the job loss. Another was having an empty nest. So, when you have children, parenting is hard. When they're young, they need you physically. When they get older and they become teenagers, they pull away from you, and you have to deal with the hormones and the changes, and that can be really hard. But then what's even harder is you go from spending over 300 days a year with your kids to spending maybe 30 days a year. So when they're not home, there's this like stillness. It's like a void. And yeah, so I just had a void professionally. I had a void personally, and I was very uncomfortable, and I was frustrated that I couldn't figure out my next step. I've had 7 careers, so I've transitioned, and the other transitions weren't as difficult. And I think part of it is because I had bills to pay that I really needed to get that next job, so my choices were really limited. But now I'm fortunate to be in a position where I can take my time and explore. Another thing that contributed to this feeling of being in a midlife crisis was I had experienced multiple losses. The man who I knew as my father, he passed away, and I lost someone in my life to suicide, and had some near losses and another loss. And so it was kind of the combination of these losses that brought me to this state. So now I want to get to the point that the reason you're here is, how did I get through this? So I would say move your body, number one. So, you have aches and pains, low energy, or I did anyway. And so what I learned through spending a year experimenting with intrinsically moving my body the way I did when I was a kid. You know, when I was a kid, I used to do cartwheels in the yard all the time, ride my bike all over the neighborhood. And I just didn't think about the idea of exercise. I just did it. So I wanted to get back to that. And then what I learned is you get energy by exerting energy. And, you know, to a point, because you can overexert yourself. But move your body, number one. And so something that can help with that is to have a menu of fun things that you like to do that are active. And they can range from 5-minute things like stretching, walking around the block, to you know, more sustained things. Like I ended up training for a marathon. I ran a marathon. But have a menu of items, and then the day before, look at what you want to do the next day, schedule it, and then don't skip more than 2 days in a row. So those were a couple of tips. And then I've written a blog about it, and I can put the link in the description. On a whim, I signed up for a marathon, and it was to try to run away from my grief. And I learned to run with my grief. But then after the marathon, I just felt like, okay, what next? So something else that helped, and I know you've probably heard this already, but write. I know there's a lot of ways to write that aren't productive, aren't effective, and I've tried a lot of them. So the one way of writing that worked the absolute best for me is when I did Rite of Passage. And that was a course, so you don't have to do that course specifically, but I think the two key things for that course that made writing meaningful is writing through conversation. So that's what they call it. And it's basically, you have a writing group that gives you feedback, and they can give you a different perspective on what you're writing about and ask you questions to get you thinking about things more deeply. And then the second thing is they have this framework called the POP framework, where you have P for personal, like, you know, it's easy to write generic stuff, so make sure your writing is personal. O for observational, and then the other P is for playful, which just means using vivid language. But the personal part of that is what also helped. So by writing personal stories about my life and reflecting back on my time and then getting feedback from people, I got to examine my past through a different lens. So I feel like I've learned more about myself in 5 essays than in 10 years of living. So move your body, write, reflect, connect. So after the losses, I was more intentional about connecting with my children, and then connecting with friends and family, and, you know, nourish yourself. And then I would say the fourth thing would be to reframe your thinking. So in order to make a change, you need to make a change. I would reframe my thinking, we'll say like with moving my body. Of course, I had times where I just didn't feel like it. But then I'd ask myself, is that true? And oftentimes it's like, well, not exactly, but, you know, there's a part of my brain that wanted to keep me comfortable. So I just had to work my way through it and not cling on it and argue with it, but just kind of let it pass. And so there's also reframing even the concept of midlife crisis. It's not a crisis. It's just maybe you had expectations of what your life would be, or maybe you've experienced losses, or for whatever reason you're here. Try to reframe it as it's part of the journey and it's a transition, and there's going to be something new and different on the other side if you so choose. So you can choose to go back, but I imagine you're here and you're having these feelings because you don't want to be in the life you're in, or you don't want to go back to the life you had, or maybe you can't go back. And so embrace this time as a transition, a time to learn and grow and evolve as a person. Highly recommend Stillness. So, you know, there's a lot of talk about meditating. And to me, my journey with meditation is it's happened in, I wouldn't call it a progression, but it was a progression for me. I started off with Headspace, and it was an app that taught me how to focus on my breath. And the reason for focusing on your breath is so you can direct your attention inward. And focusing on your breath enables you to stop your mind from thinking. And it takes practice. So sometimes you can last like 5 seconds and then another thought comes in. But the more you practice, the better you get at it. And then the next way I learned to meditate was through body scans. So I did Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation course. So meditated for 10 whole days, no writing, no reading, no gesturing, no eye contact. You're there with yourself, not completely by yourself because others are around, but for 10 days. And the technique is a body scanning technique. And this I feel like goes beyond the breath. And then the latest thing I'm playing around with is that space of complete stillness. So whether I'm walking outside, like you don't have to be sitting down to be meditating. Meditating is having an awareness of what's going on inside you. So the stillness is moving through life or sitting in a way that the thoughts aren't coming in, and you're taking in how you feel and your surroundings around you without necessarily focusing or having thoughts about them. So I'm kind of playing around with this. It's when I have a thought about doing it, then I'll try it. So I can last a couple seconds, but there's just like a sense of peace that comes with that. So yeah, reframing is just like a really powerful tool. And so you can examine like what are the thoughts you have that are getting in the way of you moving forward, and then find a way to shift your thinking. So for example, part of my process with moving my body was coming up with a mantra. So I didn't want exercise to be a punishment. And so I came up with this mantra of I wanted to be strong in my body. And what was nice about this is there's a truth to it. So whatever it is that you want, you have it already. So my smallest truth in that I am strong in my body is I can walk, I can go up and down stairs, I can pick up heavy boxes. So to me, that was my baseline for I am strong in my body. And then of course you can get stronger. When I was exercising and I felt exerted, instead of counting down the kilometers or counting down the minutes to when you would stop or when things would get easier, I would think I am strong in my body, and I would feel what that feels like. And so then even like talking about it now, like my posture's improved. Walking down the street, I would walk a bit taller. So throughout the day, I would think I am strong in my body. And so my mantra now is I am worthy, and there's like a whole other story behind that. I've had a lifetime of feeling unworthy, so I'll get into that in another video. But yeah, the power of reframing, the power of questions, just questioning your thinking and just asking yourself, why do I believe what I believe? So am I in a crisis? Do I need to become something? Why do I want that? I used to think that I used to want to be worth $20 million. So I had this idea in my head. I could create a business, and if I could get the systems really tight, that it could be worth 4 times revenue. And so in 5 years, if I could get it to $5 million in revenue, I could sell it for 4 times and be worth 20 million. And had a business plan and was on track and all of this. And then, I mean, it didn't happen, but I questioned myself, why do I want money? I mean, we come into this world and we're shown a lot of lack. You know, our neighbors, our friends, our classmates, our coworkers all have these things, and maybe I don't have these things. And sometimes we feel like having these things will make us happy. If I had a bigger house, a better house, a house in a better neighborhood, a nicer car, more cars, more of anything. But what I realized was, by questioning, I figured out I wanted money because I wanted security. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted to be known for something. And with being known for something, I asked, like, why do I want that? Why do I want to be known for something? Because I wanted to have an idea that I turned into reality and then made it something that would last beyond me. But why did I want that? And I learned through writing and writing through conversation. I wanted these things because I wanted to belong. And I wanted to belong because I felt like I didn't belong. I'm half Korean, and I was raised in middle America, a small town. And I felt like an outsider because it was pointed out often that I was Korean. And then I also had these, like, I don't know, nuanced things with my language, or my culture was a part of me. And so I felt like an outsider. And then with the Korean community, I felt like, I didn't speak Korean, so I felt like an outsider there. And then my bio dad left when I was 4, so I was looking for belonging, and I thought I could find it at work, which is part of why I put too much of myself into that. And then I realized, upon reflecting and all of this, I don't need to belong anywhere because I belong to me. And what that means is I am here. Like I don't even know how to say, I don't know how to say what it means. It may not mean anything to you. So in any case, letting go of things I thought I wanted, letting go of expectations of how I thought life should be. And I kind of, in thinking about, why am I here, and why do we exist as humans, and what's the purpose of life? I've come to believe that we just need our purpose for now. You don't have to have a life's purpose, and your purpose can evolve, just like your career can evolve. And to me, the meaning of life is to experience it, and to experience it fully, to your fullest capacity. And I believe that we are all connected. And in being one, the purpose is to experience oneself. So if you think of the whole ecosystem that we're part of, and how unique each of us are, and each of our perspectives, even if you have twins, the twins are going to have a different life experience. And so my belief currently is that the reason for being is to experience being. So that's what I'm doing. So, what is it? TLDR, as far as, and what do I need to do to sort of fast track through this? Move your body, learn, write, follow your curiosity, connect with people. Following your curiosity is one. If you've ever had like a hint or an inkling of, maybe I should try this thing, like stand-up comedy, for example. I did a stand-up comedy set. It was an idea I had. I did it. It was terrifying. I haven't done it since. But at least I gave it a try. And you never know what that thing is that will just capture you, and where you can lose track of time. And so don't worry about, can I do it to a certain level of quality that I'm used to performing? Don't worry about what people will think of you doing it. If you feel like you're too old to do it, be able to learn how to do a back handspring or something, and you feel like you're too old, there's lots of ways to incrementally get there. And that's the other thing, is to ideate what's possible. So anytime you have an idea to do something, automatically your brain that's trying to keep you comfortable will say, oh, we don't really want to do that because of all of these reasons. And that gets you in the stuck mindset. And you feel stuck because there's part of you that wants to do it. And then there's the other part of you that's holding you back. So get into the possibility mindset and think of all of the ways you can do it. Because no matter what there is to do, there are reasons why it won't work, and there are reasons why you shouldn't do it with everything. And so you may as well look at the other side of it and see what's possible. So, okay, TLDR, move your body, learn, explore, follow your curiosity, connect with others, be still, and recognize that life is a journey. And we're taught that we want to reach some destination, and then we have this destination in mind, this goal, and then we get there and we realize, like, what now? And missed out on the journey. So, if you're not present in the present, you're not going to be present in the future. So the thing that you think you want, when you get there and when you have it, you'll want something else. And that's what happened to me. I thought I wanted a business, so I started one. Then I realized, I don't want to be responsible for payroll, and I don't want to take money out of my savings to make payroll. And then I thought I wanted to be a marketing executive, and I wanted to be in tech. And now I realize I want to be. And so, wherever you land, try to find a way to be in that and appreciate the journey that you are on to get you to this point. And I will admit, there's still part of me that wants to live up to my fullest potential. So I still haven't let go of that, but I've let go of it being predefined by, what society says living up to your fullest potential is. So anyway, if you've made it all the way to the end, I so appreciate you. Thank you for joining me. And you can see from my YouTube channel, I'm just doing a whole bunch of random experiments. I'm trying to find that video that for some reason I want to make videos. So I'm trying to find that format that I like. And my challenge this time was to make something fun. And I thought, what's fun for me? And fun for me is giving people unsolicited advice. So, my kids aren't big fans of that, but this is a way for me to give unsolicited advice. And if you've made it this far and you've found any of it helpful, and I imagine you would have if you stayed this whole time, I appreciate you. And please let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular that stood out to you, because I like the idea of creating more content around this topic, but having it more digestible and more focused. Of course, please subscribe, like all of those things. And yeah, I'll put all the links in the description. And thank you.